Soloing over changes can be really intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, it's not all that different from learning to solo in any style. In this video, I'll show you how you can start playing convincing jazz solos without thinking about chords, scales, or arpeggios. Hi, I'm Dr. George with Jumpstart Jazz Guitar for busy adults. Everything you need to know without all the noise. Before we get started, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. When it comes to jazz soloing, everybody thinks it's all about the notes and chords, but there are actually other things that are more important. Take a listen to this solo that I recorded over the changes to Autumn Leaves. Now, some of you may have noticed that for the most part, I was only using the notes from the pentatonic scale. There are a few blue notes and approach notes slipped in. And other than the notes, I'd say that's a fair representation of my sound. And I hope you'll agree that it sounds like jazz. So how can that be? As I played that solo, I didn't think once about the chords or scales or anything else. It's all in one key, so I was just simply using the E minor pentatonic scale. And since I was limited to 5 notes, I was more concerned with 3 other aspects: the style, phrasing, and development. So more than anything, the style is what makes a solo work. And we're not talking just about the style of music, but also your personal style. Now, there are 3 main elements involved here. One is the groove, the articulations, and your sound. So let's talk about the groove. Now, as Duke Ellington told us, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And swing is an important part of jazz, but it can also be Latin or even funk or rock. The real key is that you're locked into the time and that you're really feeling it, that you've got a good feel. And like Pat Metheny said, if you're playing with a good feel or good time, you can play just about anything. But the opposite is also true. Without a good time feel, it doesn't matter what notes you play. Now, articulations are how we attack the note, how we release the note, and what happens in between. Okay? So we can attack a note hard, we can attack it soft, we can slur into it by using hammers, and pull-offs. Okay? And you can bend notes. And then, of course, while the note is sustaining, we can add some vibrato or a little bit of bend. So there's a lot of different ways that we can change the sound of the note. Every style of music has its own basic set of articulations. It's a lot like the accents in English. And for jazz, there are no hard and fast rules, but in general, we're going to pick more notes. We'll use slurs and bends differently. We won't use big whole step bends very often. I use a lot of quarter tone bend. And then hammers and pulls, we tend not to do a lot of that type of thing, trills and things like that. You're going to basically use it as part of your phrasing. But like I say, there are no rules. And you can listen to anybody. You can listen to rock guitar players. You can listen to jazz saxophonists. And you can get ideas from anywhere. And what will happen is that you'll combine all of those to create a unique set of articulations for you. They have to be somewhat within the style, but like I say, there's no real rules. The last part of your style is actually your sound. Okay? And this will have to do with your equipment, your guitar, your instrument. Once again, there are no rules. But it's something that you need to be conscious of and make a decision of. Now, in general, and traditionally, jazz has a much cleaner sound without distortion. And if you like that sound, that's just fine, but it's not necessary. Just ask John Scofield or Mike Stern. Okay? Once again, it's a very individual thing, so you can use whatever sound you like. And if you want to use effects pedals, you can do that as well. The second key is phrasing. Now, throughout the solo, I was hearing the song in my head and using that to guide my phrasing. And I think you can hear that I was aware of the form of the song all the way through. The length of the phrases varies, though. It's not going to be section to section to section, and it follows the flow of the song. It's also not something that I'm really consciously thinking about. It's just happening throughout the solo. So the last technique that I was using is I was developing my ideas. There are ideas that are being repeated throughout the solo with only 5 notes. Really was unavoidable. But sometimes I was repeating an idea and I'd play it once and then I'd play it again right away. Maybe I change it just a little bit, maybe I add a couple of notes to it. And then other times, though, I would play an idea that I had played a couple of choruses earlier. Now, there are a lot of ways to develop an idea, starting with repetition, but you can also sequence, transpose, and you can work with the other parameters like rhythm, dynamics, and articulations. So here's a simple exercise you can use to begin developing ideas. We're going to start with just 3 notes. I'll use these 3. And the exercise would be to play those 3 notes and only those 3 notes for 5 minutes in as many different ways as you can and as musically as you can. Now, I'm not going to do a whole 5 minutes, but I'll do just a little bit of it. Okay, so one more thing. When I was playing that solo, I played it with confidence and with feeling. And this is a real key. When you're hunting for notes, you can't do that. In fact, it's pretty hard to focus on any of the things we talked about when you're looking for notes. Here's what I suggest you do. First, keep it simple. Pick tunes that are basically in one key. There are plenty of them. Okay? Most of them will have 1 or 2 chords that are not in the key, but it'll work just fine with both pentatonic scale, major scale, or the natural minor scale. We'll worry about other notes later. Now, blues will work too, but don't choose modal tunes because if you have chord changes going on underneath, it makes it a lot easier to make your solos work. Next, you need to be sure that you know your scales. Okay? And you can pick whatever scale you want. Again, you can use a pentatonic scale, a major scale, but you want to be able to play it all over the neck. Okay? Now, I have a guide for scales that I use that cover the entire neck. For example, there's just 2 patterns for the pentatonic scale. And if you'd like to download that, there's a link down below in the description. Next, learn the tune. Okay? And I suggest that you memorize it first. And the way you do that is by listening to it a lot. And get it in your ear before you even start to try to play it. Okay? But once you get it into your ear so that you can be following along this and hearing the song in your head while you're soloing, it will be what guides your phrasing. You also have to feel it. As we said, time is really important. And what Duke Ellington tells us is that you have to dance. While you don't actually have to get up off the chair and start doing a soft shoe, you probably should be internalizing that, feeling the beat, rather than trying to count it. Okay? I never count through any of that. I always know where I am, but I was never counting. And then finally, listen. Listen and listen and listen more. Listen to lots of different things, but for the most part, you have to be listening to jazz. You have to be listening to the music that you want to play. It doesn't work to listen to all your favorite tunes and then try to play jazz. I know, I tried it. So let's sum up. The things that make your solos interesting are your style, your sound, your shape, and how you develop ideas. Okay? Now, of course, it's going to sound better as you start adding in more notes, chord tones, approach tones, arpeggios, and things. But that should come later. Now, you can start practicing those right now, and they'll start to show up in your playing. But you shouldn't be consciously saying, I need to play this arpeggio or this scale over this chord, because it just doesn't work. So thanks for watching. If you'd like to dig into this a little deeper, click the link below and schedule a free online lesson with me. There's no obligation. I guarantee you'll learn something. See you next time.